Presiding Officer, migration has had a hugely positive impact on Scotland throughout our history. We've been enriched in it by the contribution of those who have chosen to make Scotland their home. The positive impact of migration to Scotland can be felt in our families, in our communities, in our workplaces and indeed in this very Parliament. Every day we see the important role people have chosen to make their home in Scotland play in supporting the delivery of our public services in all sectors of our economy, in the academic and student communities of our colleges and universities and in our rich shared culture. While we should be rightly proud of the history of migrants in this country, we also know that migration is vital to Scotland's future as well. For the past 2 decades, migration has been the main driver of population growth in Scotland. In addition to international migrants choosing Scotland as their home, inward migration from the rest of the UK to Scotland has been greater than outward migration from Scotland for every year since 2001-2002. Migration matters to Scotland. That's why continuing to stress that Scotland is a welcoming, attractive country for those seeking to make a contribution here is essential. But Scotland's migration policy is decided not here in this Parliament, but at Westminster. Both the Tories and the Labour Party want to keep it that way. And that means we are at the mercy of right-wing UK Government Home Secretaries seemingly determined to adopt ever more extreme language and policy positions. Indeed, it's hard to imagine anything more damaging to Scotland's interests than the disgraceful, shameful rhetoric warning of a hurricane of migrants coming our way. Suella Braverman may no more be Home Secretary, but there's no indication that James Cleverly will change direction. And for the current UK Government, the hostile environment has not been hostile enough. And for Labour and the Liberal Democrats, no matter what the cost is to Scotland, there's a price worth paying to maintain Westminster control over this Parliament and this country. The Scottish Government takes a very different position. Six paper now building a new Scotland series, Migration to an Independent Scotland, sets out very clearly the problems of the current UK approach to migration, why this doesn't work for Scotland's economy or for our communities. The risk posed by a declining working-age population presents fundamental challenges to the resilience and sustainability of our communities, of our businesses and of our public services. Migrants can make a real difference in key sectors of our economy by strengthening and supplementing local skills, as well as by taking up jobs in regional economies that are otherwise hard to fill. And in line with our ambitions for a more entrepreneurial Scotland, research from the Federation of Small Businesses found that 1 in 10 small to medium-sized enterprises in Scotland are migrant-led. That's why a coherent and flexible immigration system is crucial to Scotland's success. Briefly.
Paul Sweeney.
Thank the Minister for giving way. Would he recognise that initiatives such as the ScotGrad scheme have been particularly effective at not just placing postgraduate students from an international background in Scottish businesses, but have also been highly successful at encouraging export growth by using Indigenous foreign language skills to promote business development activity, which helps to grow the Scottish economy and create a virtuous cycle?
Minister.
Well, indeed, I would recognise that having specific schemes predicated on specific outcomes can make a difference. And indeed, I'll come on to that in a few moments' time, because whilst it is only with independence, President Officer, that we can create a migration system that truly matches Scotland's need, this Government is already taking the challenges of demographic change seriously, and while we're doing all we can within this devolution settlement to make a difference. In 2021, we published Scotland's first population strategy. It set out our aim to make communities across Scotland attractive places to live, to work, to bring up families and to move to. So that Scotland's population profile provides a platform for sustainable, inclusive economic growth and well-being. To support the delivery of that work, we established a ministerial population task force working across government to consider how best to address these important issues. Sectors and organisations make that point frequently, and I know Mr Swinney will encounter this in his own constituency when he meets employers across a range of sectors, hospitality, food processing, agriculture, who rely on people who come from other parts of the world to work here in Scotland. But we also see social attitudinal research that shows that there is a recognition amongst the wider population that we need people to come here and live in Scotland. President Officer, returning to the point I was making, in 2020 we published Migration Helping Scotland Prosper, a paper detailing how a tailored migration policy within a UK framework could operate to meet Scotland's distinct needs. The paper is informed by the advice and insight of our independent expert advisory group, as well as extensive engagement with employers, elected representatives, communities and organisations across the country. President Officer, our proposals were rejected almost immediately by the UK Government. Undeterred, we have also sought to evidence how a place-based approach to migration, one that allows vital migrants to come to our rural and island communities, could be tested under a rural visa pilot scheme. We published a detailed evidence-based policy paper more than a year ago, and the UK Government are yet to engage on the substance of this issue. And meanwhile, the Scottish Conservatives published their paper, Grasping the Thistle, which I cited in last week's debate on Fair Work, and which I will cite again, where I can see that Mr Fraser is excited by that prospect, and he will know that in his paper they describe the migration shifts to our urban centres and the negative impact on our rural communities. Their own analysis only serves to underline why our proposal for a rural visa pilot is an approach worth considering, and yet their fellow Conservatives in Westminster refuse to engage. President Officer, we are a government working with partners to try and address the issues Scotland is facing through the delivery of our population strategy. We are a government trying to constructively influence and shape the Ukraine migration system to better meet Scotland's needs. We are a government asking. So it's only through independence that we have an opportunity to make sure Scotland's migration policy is set according to our distinct needs and the challenges we face. The proposals in our newly published paper describe a welcoming immigration system with a framework that balances the needs of its users with Scotland's wider demographic and economic requirements. The Scottish Government's vision for migration is underpinned by values of dignity, fairness and respect, values which are increasingly missing from the UK system we are currently subject to, values which will allow us to sensitively respond to the world around us and Scotland's needs over time. When we launched our paper in Dundee the week before last, Shirley-Anne Somerville, Emma Roddick and I had the opportunity to discuss our proposals with stakeholders. We heard from local government, from the third sector, from higher education research, from representatives of the culture sector, from people who work directly to support refugees and asylum seekers, and from those focused on ensuring migrant workers are supported. And those values we set out in our paper were hugely welcomed. We heard about the challenge of working to support people in the current hostile environment. We heard about the economic opportunity migrants bring to Scotland. We heard how important it is to take a place-based approach to help with some of the unique needs within Scotland. And we heard about the challenges presented by the ending of freedom of movement following Brexit. We know that many sectors of our economy and many parts of our country, particularly rural communities, are feeling the real-life consequences of Brexit and the ending of free movement. That's why our paper clearly sets out this government's ambition to rejoin the EU as soon as possible and regain the benefits of freedom of movement. We'll shortly have more to say that on our ongoing Building a New Scotland series. Our paper sets out a system of visas that allow people to live, to work, to study and to visit Scotland, as well as supporting inward investment and job creation. These visas would form the core pillars of a managed discretionary immigration system, helping Scotland's economy prosper, ensuring we have the right people with the right skills in the right places. This is vital to help us address skills shortages across the economy. We've also recognised the crucial importance of non-UK citizens to the delivery of public services. Take, for example, our vital health and social care services. Scotland's health and social care sector must have the ability to recruit workers from out with the UK to help meet the shortfall in workforce capacity. This provides employment opportunities for people who wish to make Scotland their home and ensures the protection of our most vulnerable citizens. So ensuring we have a migration system that meets our needs is important for every aspect of our lives. And there are a range of proposals in our paper that describe just what we mean by a system that meets our needs. We would establish a Live in Scotland route, allowing people and their families to come to Scotland without the need of prior sponsorship from an employer. We would incorporate a place-based element to this route, building the proposals that we've been urging the UK Government to endorse for a rural visa pilot, providing much-needed support for our rural and island communities. We would retain a seasonal worker visa, but extend it to support a broader range of seasonal industries in Scotland, ensuring the migration system serves all parts of our economy. We would introduce a 5-year Scottish Connections visa, supporting the ambitions of this government's population strategy by providing a visa route for people with a connection to Scotland to return or remain here. Alongside the Work in Scotland visa, this will increase the pipeline of talent our employers need to grow our economy across every part of Scotland.